All right, Raj, let's go first. Why don't you go first? What's your favorite coaching tool?
Well, we just came out of a team meeting, didn't we? And did a really great tool there. So I'm still got that top of mind as well. And I don't know when John will share this wonderful new tool that he was guiding us through, but I love that one. But my favorite one, Future Self, I love Future Self. I really, really like Future Self. I use Future Self a lot. Second might be Inner Critic. And then I actually use Bird's Eye View as well. But I want to save talking about Bird's Eye View until later, I think, when we're talking about a few other things, because I was thinking about how I use Bird's Eye View. But Future Self for me, I think, because I'm somebody who always likes to, like, this is a time of year, I think I was sharing last week or the week before, this is the time of year when I start to think about vision planning and goal planning. And I just like the future. So I use a lot of vision boards, but I love the future self visualization. Whenever I do that with clients, it just always goes beautifully.
Yeah, future self is one of my favorites too. And for those who are listening or watching, not familiar with coaching, the future self is an exercise where you bring to mind a version of yourself some distance in the future. It can be anywhere from 1 year to 9 years to 20 years, but some distant self. And then you ask yourself, what would my distant future self, what kind of decisions would they make? And how would they see the situation? And it is one of my favorites as well. I think that I find the future self to be so useful because it breaks up current thinking patterns, right? Like you're thinking in like, I'm so like all these things are happening right now. Like what would the long range best version of myself, like what would that perspective be? The research around future self is robust. I mean, anytime anyone thinks about themselves in the future and believes that there is a connection to our present day actions to the results of the future, it will change people's decisions in the present moment for the better. And yeah, the future self is lots of robust research around it. A tool I've been playing with a lot recently is simply this idea of perspective shifts, thinking a lot around, it seems so simple, but it's really just been this question of what is it I really want? This question first hit me when I was in my coach training. I took a leadership program with Laura Whitworth. She was one of the founders of CTI. She also was, in a lot of ways, worked to create the ICF. Laura, and I went through this training program with her. She was fierce. She was amazing. And one of her questions she would ask is, what is it you really, not what you think you should want, but what is it you really, really want? And that question to me, it's like the quintessential life coaching question. It seems so simple, but yet it's so profound when you give yourself the time and space to answer it, sitting across from someone who's really, truly listening. And when you get beyond all of the things that you feel like you should want or feel like are habitual wants and get intentional around it, it's a profound experience. And that is really what I've been sitting with the last couple of weeks, is this idea. And I thought the listener should know, I've had some health things come up, and I'm going to be gone for the next 2 weeks. I'll be fine. I'll be okay. But some things I have to manage. And it's amazing when a challenge comes up that is unexpected, how it offers an opportunity to shake up current thinking and shake up current ideas. And for me, the thing is really been asking myself, what is it I really want to focus on? And the answer again and again comes back to this: doing these podcasts, learning what's out there on the cutting edge of coaching, of positive psychology, of connecting with the coach training EDU community, and leaning more into this. And it's so lovely to have the answer to that question to be more of what you're doing. And there's clarity there. And I feel like that's the quintessential life coaching journey. It's getting clear on what it is you really want, not what you think you should want, not what you think others want from you, but what you truly want, and then designing your life to achieve it. It can be that simple.
So, John, I know as coaches, most of us do that soul searching, or we're quite good at the self-awareness piece, or we're working on ourselves. What if you have somebody who's not been asked that question before? They don't really know what they want. I was wondering how Future Self could help with that as well.
Right. I'm kind of curious, Raj, how long did it take you to get over the idea that in every coaching session you had to have some major insight or fix the problem or prove the worth of coaching?
That's probably still a gremlin I have to bat away, if I'm honest with you. Not every single time I go into a coaching session, but that's just about being transparent and vulnerable in terms of my own personality type and, you know, the achievements that I like to accomplish. I think I might have said this before. I remember in the 2.0 program, and I will never forget that moment. You were training us, and I think Hayden had come in, and it was all around looking at not being attached to the outcome. And it sounds so obvious, yet it was just a light bulb. I literally felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I was like, yes, I don't need to be attached to the outcome. If I just show up and be in that space and trust, just be curious, I don't need to carry the weight or the burden of whatever I think, because that's my lens and my perspective of the world, whatever I think this session should look like. I'm feeling it again right now, thinking about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think what attracts people to coaching is that it's a helping profession. It's people who want to help other people. That's what we're here. And it's exciting. It's fulfilling. I think one of the most fulfilling things I've ever, this is why I wanted to dedicate my professional life to this, is because I remember the impact that coaching sessions had on me when Moise was getting trained and I was, the practice client for her classmates. And I've been coached a lot too in the last 15 so years of this coaching thing. And I'm continually impressed with coaches who give me space to process. It's just processing space. And I think that in our society, there's an odd reconfiguration of value, what is value creation? And with so much content being created, and that content being created with the ability to be duplicated, there's value in that. There's value in content creation. There is also increased value in space creation. And what life coaching does really well is it teaches coaches how to create space, create this empty field that you allow your client to romp in. And you follow along wherever they want to go in this empty field, and just space to say whatever and feel whatever, and be able to be attended to with someone who's trained to let their assumptions, if not go completely, but at least to be aware of assumptions, to question like their own coach assumption, so that when you're asking a coaching question, you allow clients to question their assumptions. That's so valuable right now in our society. People don't have that. There is so much judgment, so much criticism, so much anger in these spaces. that to have these spaces of non-judgment, of exploration, of curiosity, these are the premiums. And this is why I think the field of coaching is growing, tremendously growing. The fundamentals are correct. So in essence, what I see coaches doing is we create space for people to figure out and do whatever they need to figure out. And it took me about 3 years before I stopped trying to solve people's problems in coaching. It was painful. I remember doing some sessions where I was trying to get a problem and solve it and get up in there and make it worthwhile, like prove the value of coaching. Like, you made this decision. And I was searching for a coach myself a month ago. I'm a tough client. I'm like the worst coaching client ever. I mean, I feel like I can't really hire someone I've trained. That's kind of awkward. So I go and I look at these other companies and, I'll do this and I tell people, look, I know I'm an MCC coach. I've trained, I'm a trainer. I know I've done this stuff. Like I'm horrible, just if we work together, it's, that kind of stuff. I can, design completely, like, here's the package of how you want to be if you're my coach, kind of thing. And the number one thing is just space. Just simple. But it's amazing how me as a client, I can totally 100% feel if my coach wants me to, like, in terms of decision, if they want me to go one way or another, I can feel that like instantly if the coach wants me to go one way or another. And that for me is a no. Like if a coach does that, I'm out. Because here's the deal. And this is like one of the things I feel like if coaches can understand this in their journey of coach training, then it's like they've won the coach training. They've won coach training. And when there's a problem or decision, you want to make that problem or decision worse. Like you don't want to actively solve it. You want to use it as an insight generator. So it's almost like, who cares if they make one decision or another? Like you have to think this all in your head and feel this. Even if you think, you know what, I really, really, really want them to go make this decision. If you can't let go of that, then you have to tell your client, look, I'm sorry, I just really want you to make this decision, but I'm going to let that go and I'm going to be here and be present for you. That's the way to go with this. But I feel like once coaches get to this point, it's like freedom. Because what happens is then you allow yourself to get to the deeper things. You get to that question of what is it you really, really want? And this decision is simply, whatever decisions they make, whatever direction or whatever is happening in their life, the clarity comes, the clarity around the decision comes not from playing in the same level as the question, but by going one or two levels deeper. That to me is, it's a yes. I'll sign up for that all day, every day. It's such a sacred conversation. And that's to me what coaching is. So if my favorite coaching tool, if I could just package that into whatever we call it, that's my tool.
I wonder how many people needed to hear that today, John. Like what I was hearing as you were talking as well was, it's okay to not have all the answers. And both the client and the coach needs to hear that. Mm-hmm. I needed to hear it. I think we need to all hear that, to just let go. And I think that connects back to when we were talking about enoughness even earlier or the other week. It really is okay to explore. It is making me think of wonderful coaching session I had earlier with our very own Ashley Scott. And when I was in the session, I was judging myself around a couple of things. When she was asking me a coaching question, and, the perfectionist or the inner critic inside me as a client was like, why don't I know? I was like, I don't know. Actually, I'm not sure why I'm feeling like this or why this is coming up. But it was so freeing to have the space to even say, I don't know, and it's okay.
Yeah. It's courageous to get to this place. Once Laura's coming up a lot, which is sweet. And she said once, you don't want to go into dangerous territory alone. And I feel like as a coach, you get to go into this territory, which can feel dangerous because you have to be vulnerable. with and vulnerable is hard. It's not, I know it can feel like, yay, let's be vulnerable. And I know Brene Brown's work is so courageous and generous. There's a certain celebration around vulnerability, which I think is really valuable, but that doesn't mean it's easy. And getting to what you really want sometimes isn't easy, because it means that you have to then, once the clarity of that then starts to shift. It's like, it's a foundation that once set, it starts to make everything else above it shift around a little bit. That's kind of but that's also what we're looking for too. So.